News Talk time currently 10:06. Time now for hour number 1 of the Saturday special right here on KSCO.
Josh Stevens.
MZ.
Hi, Josh Stevens. What a pleasant surprise to see your smiling face here.
Pleasure to see you too. How about that intro?
Oh, but we're supposed to banter first.
Oh, of course.
The script says to ad lib.
Ad lib.
And we follow the script around here. All right. Well, you're right. Let's go ahead and start it here.
My script doesn't say that.
Oh, it was there.
Back about 13 months ago.
No. We got to do the hour 1 intro. We'll start this thing the proper way here.
Yeah, we got to say good morning.
May I ask you a personal question?
Of course.
Are you enjoying doing the Saturday special with poor old MZ?
I mean, I never know what to expect, so yeah, it can be quite entertaining.
Okay. Well, I don't know if entertaining is a proper word to describe.
And informing.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be nice if we can make it entertaining, but it's sort of a serious topic today that we're gonna do. But,
that's true. I actually had something on that note because we talked about since you're talking about China.
Yeah.
With regards to that, I noticed in the Midwest, you can buy, like when it comes to buying socks at like say Goodwill or Ross or so, you have a choice. You can buy socks that are made from China, but you could also buy them in the US that are US made. But here out in the good old West Coast, you can't find American-made socks at those same retail stores.
Any idea why? Well, maybe we can get into that.
Yeah, that'd be a good topic too to touch on. But
sure.
Yeah, it's interesting just because of the fact that we don't have a choice here, but these same people are wanting to fight for better wages, but they don't want to stock their shelves with products that are made in here locally.
Good point, Josh Stevens. You know what? Before we start the show, we're going to hear from Dave Michaels and his orchestra. Hi, Dave Michaels. How are you?
Good morning, MZ. I'm all right. Now I'm looking at where this hat is made. It's not made in China. That's good. It's not made in the U.S. either, but it's not made in China. Pretty nice hat, huh?
The Flight 1080 hat,
Flight 1080 hat. I just got this in, MZ. These are for you. Check that out.
Wow.
And look, they're Pro Fits. They are Flex Fits.
Oh, my God.
Yes, we did it. I got these hats. So it's Christmas time, MZ. Christmas is 3 or 4 days away. I can't count. I don't know how many days. I'm just excited. I'm excited for Christmas. I'm excited for the listeners because we have our hats, beanies, sweatshirts, and T-shirts. Here's the price list. Okay. If you want to head down to the Dave Cave, because there's only, 2 or 3 more days to shop?
Yes.
This is crazy. Avoid the lines. Come down to the Dave Cave. Get your T-shirts for $20. Hats and beanies, $25. Sweatshirts, $40. Employees get a discount. If you're listening, we'll give you a discount on these shirts. You better get them while they're there because they're not going to be there for very long. Yes. Everything we get sells out pretty darn quick. Again, T-shirts, $20. Hats and beanies, $25. Sweatshirts, $40. I got an email. I got 2 or 3 emails yesterday, MZ, because I was asking about distributors in Monterey County. I'm trying to keep this quick.
Yes.
I got 2 or 3 emails about that. So let me tell you, I don't want to waste a bunch of time talking about that right now.
It's fine. It's okay.
It's this simple, though. I'm going to make a long story short. $30 to sign up. Call me with your credit card information. We'll get you signed up to get a kit sent out to you. You're ready to make 30% commission. It's that easy. Now, there's a lot of details that go into it. Call this number, 831-218-5726. That's 218-KSCO. Leave a message. I'll get back to you. We'll get you signed up. We're looking for distributors in Monterey, and this could be a great opportunity for you. One person was homebound and wanted to know, could they physically do it? And I say, yes, if you can pick up a phone and look on the computer, get informed and study a little bit, because that's what it's going to take. Yes, you can work from home, disabled, fully abled. It's a great opportunity. Senior citizens, there's no age discrimination here. We don't care what you look like. We don't care. You just need to be presentable on the phone, which most people can do.
As long as they don't use profanity toward our customers.
Right. You don't want to threaten customers either. Hey, you better buy this or I'll, come to your house. And, you don't want to do that. So, and if you want to learn more, go to KSCO.com. Okay, Jack and I made a video. It'll explain to you all the Healthy Start packs. So whether you want to buy one or whether you want to sell these, everything you need to know about the Healthy Start packs that we sell are right there on this video.
Right.
Also, a little bit, I think about a 5 or 6, maybe 10-minute segment on how to become a distributor. It's about 3/4 of the way into the show. So if that's what you want to know, go to KSCO.com, click the link there. About 3/4 into the video is the business opportunity part.
Perfect.
Okay.
And don't forget PureWorks.
PureWorks
We got
have out there.
so much PureWorks because it's flu season.
Yes. I'm going to be out at the Dave Cave again. T-shirts 20, hats and beanies 25, sweatshirts 40, and today, MZ, and any day that I'm out in the Dave Cave, I'm going to be recording testimonials. So if you want to go out there and say, hey, Longevity did this for me, you want to record it, we'll record you and maybe hear yourself on George Norrie. How does that sound?
You might even hear it on Coast to Coast, right?
Right.
Yeah, so that'll be cool.
Yeah.
Wow.
Sound good,
so,
MZ?
So you're gonna take care of people who buy a certain amount of stuff, with a free
Bottle of
phone.
PureWorks.
Yeah,
Yes.
good.
Don't forget to get your KSCO gear. Support your favorite radio station. I'll be out there till 2, maybe a little bit longer because I have a lot of work to do. So, I'll be out there. I'll see
Way
you
to
guys.
go, Dave.
Okay.
Thanks. Take care.
Good morning. A brighter day is here. Good morning. May we bring you cheer.
We've got time, we've got tunes, we've got time, tunes, and temperature.
Get up and go. It's today, you know, on KSCO Radio.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How you today?
I'm doing quite excellent in this here neck of the woods.
Okay. All right, we're gonna we have a surprise for you today. It's going to be a good show. Surprise. Well, so stay with us right up until noontime. I think you'll be happy you did. Yeah? Okay.
Good morning. Now stay right here on KSCO Radio.
Back about 13 months ago, I visited China for the first time. I was part of a group of Bay Area business owners and politicians. It was a very enlightening trip for me. I was both impressed that a city to house 26 million people, Shanghai, could be built so quickly and efficiently, but depressed that here in our country, it frequently takes more time to get a building permit issued for one single-family home. I hung out in Hong Kong with new friends I had made on the trip, but in the last year, my impression of China has changed radically and dramatically. The more I think about China, the more I dislike it. I'm talking about the communist government and leadership, and couldn't care less if I never visited it again. There's a publication called the Epoch Times, founded in 2000 by Asian people who were concerned about increasing loss of personal freedoms in mainland China and Hong Kong. Nan Su is a reporter for the Epoch Times and will be my guest to discuss the fast-changing status of communist China in our world on the next KSCO special this Saturday, 10 a.m. to 12 noon, right here on We're Not Afraid to Let You See Everything Radio, 104.1 FM and AM 1080 KSCO.
Okay. Been wanting to do this program for quite a while. And my friend Michael Harrison, who does the Michael Harrison Rap, connected me with the guest today, Nan Su, who is a resident of the Bay Area. Hey, welcome to KSCO, Nan.
For having me here.
Yeah, it's wonderful that you can come here. We could have done this on the phone, but you were close enough that the drive over Highway 17 was.
Well, I'm exciting to see your facility and all your staff member here. It's just exciting to see a radio station that's been existed for so many years.
That actually produces most of its own stuff, most of its own content. I mean, that's just unheard of in this day and age. You've got a background in radio yourself, or media, right?
Yeah. I used to be on 1400 AM in a Chinese talk show host.
And that's San Francisco?
Yes,
Uh-huh.
Bay Area, well, North Bay.
Right. Oh, okay. Now, let's see. Tell us about your publication. I don't know how long you've been with it. Tell us about the Epoch Times.
Well, Epoch Times exists,
Times.
since 2000.
Uh-huh.
Right. It was the time that it was established by the students and scholars that came to the West, that came to the free world, and they feel they want to establish a channel that's going to make sure the information can freely go in and out of China without any censorship. So that's how we started this newspaper. And originally, when it was started, it was in Chinese, but in the years, it gradually grew. And right now, we publish in 35 countries with 23 languages. The English Epoch Times is specifically this version starting in 2004.
Okay. Now, it sounds like there's been a tremendous growth in the publication.
Yes.
And when you started, and it was 2000, you say, so the internet was already up and running and quite a number of people were online. Otherwise, you wouldn't have been able to get past the censorship of China. Am I right?
That was correct.
So what
Internet
made it
is-
possible is the internet.
That's correct. Yeah, internet is huge. We all these years we have been constantly under the attack from mainland Chinese regime, and then they attack our website all the time.
Tell us about that. You mean you get hacked, it gets shut down? Viruses infected? I mean, what do you mean?
Well,
attack?
they attack our servers. They will. Or they will send a lot of clicks to just jam up. There's all kind of tactics they use trying to bring us down, especially when there's a sensitive news that was we reported and nobody else reported. We will see these kind of things happen.
Okay, and so how long have you been? You said you joined in.
I joined the Epoch Times around 2005, 2006 that time.
What had you been doing before?
I was doing a talk show on Bay Voice. That was a Chinese radio station. That's 1400 AM at that time. And then after I joined the Epoch Times, I was a news commentator for NTD TV. That's a branch of Epoch Times, and that was since 2006. So
you're still doing that?
Yes, I still off and on and doing the commentating stuff. So, but also I'm writing the reports.
Why do you think it's necessary to alert the public in the United States about the negative nature of communism? I mean, doesn't everybody know that already? I mean, it's just
People forget, especially nowadays. In the last 40 years, a lot of people travel to China doing business. They go there to see all these skyscrapers, everything so modern, and you see all the Hollywood movie, and you can watch NBA. But however, people forget about that. The communist nature of that regime. The way the regime it has become, actually, it's many times more dangerous than the classical practice of communism on the Soviet Union, on those communist countries already collapsed.
how so, and why is that?
Well, many people don't recognize when they go to China. They say, "Oh, this is a very capitalist country. They truly practice capitalism here." But what they don't realize, it's tightly on everything. It's under government control. It's not a classical practice of communism. Nowadays, the Chinese regime, they freely switch from capitalism, socialism to communism, and they can practice all the three at the same time, or they can pick any one of them to practice. And now, but however, they switch their gear anytime in whatever the way they want in any minute. So which make it much more dangerous than how you look at the olden ways how Soviet Union practiced communism.
I've told this story to our listeners before, but I don't think I've told it to you. Maybe I did on the phone. I'm sorry if I'm repeating myself, but you have to get a visa to go to China. And I had never gone to China, so I didn't have a visa. And I went and applied for a visa through a service that expedites it, right? But nobody told me that when it asks for your occupation, that you're not supposed to put broadcaster. Now,
Your media.
Or anything having to do with the media, because my visa was immediately rejected, and I was insulted, because usually, when you put broadcaster or media on an application somewhere, people, they sort of want you because they think they'll get
some
publicity or something, right? But boy, that was a real shock to me, and I was so insulted. I said, "Oh, screw it. I mean, I don't have to go. I mean, I'd like to, but if they're going to be that way, to hell with them, So, but the head person, or the guy who was running the tour for the Bay Area Council, you've heard of them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that was the group that I was traveling with, that I was joining their tour. I guess he really wanted me to go, so he went to bat. I guess he pulled some strings within the consulate and so forth, and he said, "Look, just be cool with this guy." And no, he's got to promise that he doesn't do any broadcasting and he doesn't do any business. He doesn't do anything. It's got to be in writing. So I got to go back, and I didn't have to stand on a long, long line that I had the first time. I had to wait a little bit, but I did have to give them a handwritten note swearing that I wouldn't do any business, and two, I wouldn't do any broadcasting from anywhere during my trip to mainland China. And they did give me a visa. I looked at it closely. It was only good for 30 days, I think, and it was a one visit to China only visa. Right?
Uh-huh.
And I found out later that all my other people that I was traveling with had unlimited entry visas to China for 10 years.
So they gave you a special deal.
Well, anyhow, that really, the more I thought about it afterwards, the more it bothered me. I mean, I don't know that I was relieved that I got it to begin with, because in my mind I had said, to hell with these people. If they don't want me to come and visit their country, then I don't need to go.
Well, it's a typical censorship to the people in media. I used to tell people, regardless if you are on the left or you are on the right in this country, in the United States, the moment that you cross the border of China, you're immediately all on the right side, because you are facing a regime that's on the ultimate left. So think about it. If you are media, regardless you are a left-side media or conservative media, once you cross the border of China, you still want your freedom of speech. You still want your freedom of press. You still want to criticize your president, right? So it's going to make you on the right side in China, and you're a group of dangerous people that's going to possibly going to cause the stability issue of the ruling of the regime.
Wow. Makes all the sense in the world. I never stopped to think about that. Thanks for pointing it out. Now, were you born in China?
Yes.
Where?
I was born in Canton. The capital of the province was Guangzhou. I was actually born in Guangzhou, and then Canton is the province right next to Hong Kong.
Right. Okay. And when did you decide to leave? And how difficult was it for you to leave?
Oh, for me, that was I came here in 1989.
At what age?
Just like about I was like 25, 26, and I was here. I came here because I was my girlfriend came here a few years earlier. So basically, I figured out if I want to marry that woman I was in love, I have to fly all over the Pacific Ocean. So, which I did, and we married. We have a happy family. We still together.
That's great. Wow, that's doesn't happen too often. So congratulations. So my father used to say something that, if you think about it, was pretty obvious. He said, any country where they make you stay, they don't let you leave, there's something wrong. Okay, but they did let you leave. How was it that you got to leave?
Yeah, I had a student visa, so I came here. I came to San Jose State. I got admitted, so I got my admission. I just came and went.
So that was in the mid 80s?
Yes, 89. Actually,
Okay, so that
in
was
89.
well after the, I guess it was President Nixon who warmed the relation, with
Yes, that was.
and then
in
it was
71,
during the Carter administration that I believe my parents visited China in 1979, which was probably 6 years after President Nixon sort of cleared the way.
Yeah, 79 was actually United States formalized the diplomatic relationship with China.
So, if it wasn't for the fact that you were a student, you think you might have had trouble getting here?
Well, at that time, you can because the in 1989, that was 10 years after the formalized the diplomatic relationship between the two nations. So you can have different ways to come here. If you have families here, you can immigrate here. You have all different reasons, but the student come here to study. It's one
And
of
the country
biggest
was probably
reason.
always very encouraging to get people educated.
United States, yes. United States actually helped China to build its very first university back in the early 1900s.
Wow. Okay. So where did I get the idea? I traveled to Hong Kong a number of times. The first time was in 1977. The next time was in 83. And the next time was in 84 and 85. And each trip, they talked about 1997 more. They were more concerned with 1997 when the lease would go back it would become no longer British Crown colony, but the lease would go back to the mainland Chinese. And everybody was wondering what would happen and how there had to be changes. Of course, there weren't changes because it's an economic mecca. Anybody would be crazy to change things in Hong Kong. Although that might be changing now, huh?
Oh, it's a huge change. When the new generation are growing up, they realize they are not going to enjoy the freedom their parents enjoy, and they have a whole life ahead of them without freedom. That's really something bother them. That's why they are going on to take to the street and protest.
When did that start to bother you?
Oh, for me?
Yeah, for you, long before this whole episode, right?
Yes, of course. I came here in January of 1989. 5 months later, I saw from my own eyes the Tiananmen Square massacre.
Yes.
So that was the first time I joined the protest. Then in front of a Chinese consulate in San Francisco. Okay. So I remember we marched from Portsmouth Square, San Francisco, all the way to San Francisco Chinese consulate at that time to call Chinese regime to stop the massacre.
Right. Okay. I guess I'm a little surprised. We're not going to dwell on this too long, but I've told this story before too. The first time I went to China in 1970 to Hong Kong in 1977. I wanted to visit Macau, which is on the mainland, and it's not too far from China, from Hong Kong. And I went there, and we went on a whole day tour, and the tour bus tour master spoke really good English, and it was great and very, very interesting. And when we were leaving, or sometime during that, I said, have you ever been to the United States? Like it was a really stupid question that I had asked. He looked at me like I was from another planet. He says, how could I go to the United States? And then I realized I'd stepped in it, you know, I put my foot in my mouth. And so I tried to recover from that faux pas by saying, oh, don't worry, it's not all that much different from Hong Kong. And he looked at me and he says, I've never been to Hong Kong, which was like an hour away, you know? And that told me, that's why I'm surprised that you seem to get out of a place that I didn't think was easy to get out of. Just a few years, well, I guess it was 10 or 12 years later, so I guess maybe things had changed.
Well, actually, the Chinese Communist regime started this change in the end of 1978. What happens after the 10 years chaos of a so-called Cultural Revolution between 1966 to 76, China's economy was at the edge of collapse. That's their own word at that time. Chairman Mao died. That was under Chairman Mao, right? Chairman Mao died in 1976, and then they decided in order to keep their own ruling power, they're going to say, okay, what do we do? So they decided to give people, every one of them, a little more economic freedom. And that was the time, and it was with a lot of help from the United States, and they start opening up. So it was the end of December of 1978, they make public announcement, the Chinese Communist Party make public announcement, they say they're going to open to the West.
Okay, so if my visit to Macau and the mainland China that took place in 1977. I think it was August. Yeah, it was this. I was there in Hong Kong. I think when the word came that Elvis Presley had died. So it was August of 77. Yeah. So if this would have, if this would have taken place, if my trip had taken place even a couple of years later, because it would have been after 78. I wouldn't have had that exchange with the person who said, oh, I've never been to the United States and I've never been to Hong Kong, an hour away, because he wasn't allowed to.
I don't know why that person never been in Hong Kong before, but it seems like
I get the feeling that he was not allowed to. He's not allowed to go out of the country. At least back then. Was that wrong? Maybe I misunderstood him.
No. I don't think Macau is a different case, right? If you are talking anybody in mainland China directly under the communist regime, that would be a different story. But Macau, it's different. Okay. Macau, they're still at that time, 1977. That's like they are still under the similar situation with Hong Kong. I think that person just decided not to go to Hong Kong for whatever the reason.
Wow. Okay. Oh, geez, that's funny. All these years, I've been in the wrong. Anyhow, that's not all that important. I was just curious. So, what's happening now? I mean, your publication has become very valuable, and more people are going to learn about it, even through this little radio show on the local Santa Cruz radio station. I'm sure a lot of people are going to check the website. They might even subscribe. And that's what you want to happen, right?
Yeah, of course. Of course. Hong Kong, let's talk about Hong Kong. Let's go back to your story of Hong Kong. Now, Hong Kong was going to return by British government to Chinese regime. They make the arrangement the arrangement was first made in 1984, and that's how they invented that one country with two political system. It's not only for Hong Kong, but they also want to use that. The Chinese regime want to use that as an example for the future China-Taiwan relationship. They want Taiwan to go through the same pattern. Now, but that was 1984. 5 years later, it came the Tiananmen Square massacre. So all of a sudden, the British government realized, boy, we're going to give these few million people to the bloody hands of a regime. So they realized, what do they do? Now, one thing here is Hong Kong never had a really democracy, even under the British rule. It's like a territory to the United States. You have freedom, you're protected, but you just don't go to vote. So Hong Kong is the same way. So, but because the Hong Kong's society is protected by the bigger umbrella of a British political system, they enjoy all the freedom. They just don't vote. So that's why in Hong Kong, because you never had an opportunity to practice your political skill, what do? So everyone, it's very much business driven, right? It's highly efficient.
Wow, I never knew that.
Business society.
Yeah. Gosh.
That's what happened to Hong Kong. So, but then after 1989, because of Tiananmen Square massacre, the British government said, okay, the best thing we can give to people in Hong Kong after their return to China, it's maybe we teach them how to do democracy. So only the 3 years from 1994 to 1997, that's 3 years immediately, just right before Hong Kong was returned to China, the people start practicing democracy. But they really didn't go very far. And people never worry about the democracy. They say, because they always enjoy the freedom without democracy. So that's why even after their return, that generation never have done much. Right now they feel sorry to their kids, to their children, because they just so used to the old way under the British rule. They never really fight much. But then things start change after 1997. More and more money pouring into Hong Kong, investment pouring into Hong Kong, and then the government hand is behind all the investments, and government hands start purchasing all the media. So they were with tons of commercials to all the media. But if the problem is once you criticize the central government in Beijing, they will stop the advertisement. So then now gradually all the media become self-censored. So people seeing that they have...
Except one newspaper. What's the guy's name?
Oh, you mean the Apple Daily?
I think so.
Apple Daily and actually Epoch Times. There's two newspapers out there really telling the truth, including this year's protest. The Apple Daily was on 60 Minutes.
That's what I saw.
Right, Mr. Lai, right?
Right.
And Epoch Times, we have 24/7 coverage on TV, and also we continuous cover all the protests. That's why in July, just a few months ago, in July, we are forced off the shelf. What happens? They went to pressure 7-Eleven because our newspaper used to be sold on the shelf of 7-Eleven in Hong Kong, but under the pressure, they cancel the sales from our Epoch Times. We have to sell them on the street. And also, the beginning of November, our print shop in Hong Kong get burned. The only ones they don't like our report is the Chinese regime. So you don't have to do a full-scale investigation to know who is behind the crimes that are trying to burn our print shop. So that's what happened.
I don't mean to seem like I'm changing the subject, but I've got to know. Can you go to China now?
Well, I'm not. No, I'm not able to go to China.
that's what
I make a public commentary on the news about China
So
all
no matter,
these years.
no matter who, whether the Bay Area Council who pulled strings for me, doesn't matter. There's no
It
one.
doesn't matter.
There's no one who could pull strings for you to get a visa. To go
No.
And you don't probably. You might have friends and family or relatives or something back there that you'd like to see. I'm not putting words in your mouth.
My dad passed away in 2007. I was not able to get a visa to go back to China to his funeral.
Wow. Yeah. Well, otherwise, you probably don't miss not being able to go back to a place that doesn't like you very much.
Well, I'm American. I have been thinking, consider myself as a independent American. This is most important. I realize I gained my independence when I become an American citizen. As a man, I can think independently. So that's very important. I will never want to lose that.
Right. And so if you could go back to China, if you could get a visa, would you even want to? Because your dad is gone and you're presumably your family or maybe.
Well, I wouldn't like anything that's under communist regime. Maybe one day I will go back to China after China becomes free country.
What do you think the chances of that are?
Well, I think the communist regime is quickly come to its end in the next few years because I think that
who would have predicted 1989? With the USSR, right?
Oh, that's correct.
Right.
That's
But
correct.
It just came on us right away. I think it was on the 38th anniversary of my birth. I think it was November 9th. I think it was in 1989, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, so anything can happen, huh?
Yeah, of course. I think that China has been practicing this suicidal. The way I call it, it's a suicidal economic model, and it's not sustainable. And that's why they have so much trouble now. Their bank getting every week now. You hear the news that some banks got closed, and then all the investments of real estate companies. The big real estate developer, they got closed.
In mainland China, or are you talking
mainland
about
China.
in Hong Kong?
Mainland China.
Okay, so why is that happening? Because is its genesis in Hong Kong, where the demonstrations are being heard all around the world? Why is this happening in mainland China? I can understand why it's happening
in Hong Kong.
Yeah, but why in mainland China, where you're not allowed to protest? I don't get it.
Right.
And you're not allowed to hear things either.
Well, in mainland China, everything is under very tight control of a Chinese regime. Now, all these years, according to drive their economy, and their GDP to go up, they really sacrifice everything else. Of course, the environment. Right? Out of the top.
That's well known.
Right. Out of the top cities, that's most polluted cities in the world.
It's got to be Beijing right at the top, right?
Ranked by United Nations. There are 16 of them in China. So out of the top 20 most polluted cities, that's ranked by United Nations. And also, they have been building a lot of ghost towns. You ever heard of a city of adults?
No.
I mean, it's if you can go check.
You build a city to be a ghost town, or it becomes a ghost town when the people don't come that you think were going to come.
That's right. So
it's the latter. They don't build a town to.
Yeah, there were 20 some ghost towns in China, and that's what they say. One of the most famous one that was widely reported by the Western media. It's a city of adults that's in Mongolia province of China, and you know everywhere. If you go to Asia, everywhere city you go, you will see people, right? huge crowd everywhere, very crowded on the street, city streets. Except if you look at the picture of city of Odos, which was published by many, like Time magazine, like Newsweek, like Wall Street Journal. You see the picture. It's just nobody on the street. Actually, I saw one picture from Time magazine a few years ago. It was a great picture. It shows a big crowd of birds walking on the street. So that's the kind of the kind of economy model. Is just a typical a very example to see how they build these things simply because they want the GDP. Right, so there's a lot. China has way overbuilt for the residential, for the commercial, all kind of developments. That's why you see all these developers right now. They're coming to the United States. Actually, they go to Hong Kong. They go to Hong Kong. They issue all these short-term financial notes with interest of 10. And sometimes even more than 10. And why? Because they are all bankrupt. They need money to borrow new money to return the old debts to keep their company in operation. They call it zombie companies. So that's why they're now in huge trouble because the real estate going down.
Wow. And here, the real estate, I think, is continuing to go up, and it's squeezing, middle and lower wage earners out of California, or at least the coastal California, for sure. Wow. Okay, let's talk about Trump for a little bit here. The message that was being given by our group, not me, I was just sort of listening, But when I was on this trip a year ago, the message was, we don't care what our president says. We love you guys, and we're the Bay Area, and we're speaking for us and us only, and Silicon Valley, Bay Area. We love you guys and want to do business with you. And everybody,
with whom? With China?
Yeah, with China.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that was the message, and that's why they treated us like kings. We were treated very nicely because the message we brought was something they wanted to hear, So, and I thought that was very nice, and I was thinking, I don't keep it a secret that I like everything that our president does. I think he's the greatest president that the United States has ever had, and he came just before we went down the toilet, okay? And it's going to make a lot of people mad, even a lot of people who listen to KSCO, but I don't give a damn what they think. I think the guy is the greatest. And yeah, he's crude, and he's got plenty of warts, but I look at the bottom line. The interesting thing is, I don't know if people with Trump derangement syndrome, the people who are foaming at the mouth Trump haters, I think some of them might be ashamed to not hate him quite so much for that reason only, that he's getting tough with China. What do you think?
Well, I think we have been doing this, expose the truth about China, expose the true nature of the Chinese regime ever since 2000, when we start building this newspaper, putting it or everything together. But however, ever since 2016, it was a great feeling for us to feel that we have American president is doing the same thing that we have been doing all these years.
Yeah, American president in your corner.
That's it. That was a great feeling for us. We finally see there's something change in the U.S. politics, and then we were so glad and see Americans finally start realizing how dangerous the Chinese regime is. And
well, obviously with our president and the supporters of the president. But do you sense what I'm sensing a little bit of it? Even the people who detest Trump, they might they won't admit it, but they give him a pass for getting tough with China. Are you sensing that too, or not?
Yes.
So that's a good thing.
Right. Now, I'm not sure. Go back to talk about your experience that you did not get a visa, right, from the Chinese consulate in San Francisco.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if
Initially,
you.
yeah.
And then after someone talk to them, they immediately they change, right?
But not a real visa. Very, very limited.
That's right. But you realize this is kind of a process in Chinese communist regime's language. They call it the United Front Project. It's been here in the United States ever since we allowed them to come into the door, and the Chinese communist regime and any of communist regime, because the Chinese regime learning from former Soviet Union, and they have this United Front project to use this every way they are able to grab, they will penetrate what they call the enemy's side. So all these years, if you read, there's a report published by Hoover Institute in November 30 of last year, 2018. They basically, in many ways, they summarize. It's a 200-page long report. They summarize how all these years the Chinese regime has come in to the United States. They penetrate our colleges and the educations, and they trying to penetrate our politics.
When you say penetrate, what does that mean?
Well, they will, for example,
Take over?
well, they will pull a lot of money in investment, like they build. Ever heard of Confucius Institute? Confucius Institute, it's one of the Uniting Front project operated by Han Ban it's a division of a Chinese government. So they come here, they say, oh, we will try to build Confucius Institute because they know Americans, Confucius is a big name. But they are coming here, they don't teach anything related to the theory of Confucianism. What they do, they will teach you some Chinese language, but however, they will mobilize the students in the who learn from Confucius, who are studying Confucius Institute as a political tool. They weaponize them. For example, there's many reports. For example, prior to 2008 Olympic, Tibetans were protest in March of 2008. Now, some of the media, TV media in Canada, they reported. So what Chinese government did, they mobilized the students of Confucius Institute and went protest on those TV because they just make the report. And also they will in the Confucius Institute, when they hire a teacher, they will give them the discipline. You shouldn't talk about Tibet. You're not going to talk about the Uyghurs, and you're not going to talk about Falun Gong, all these religious minority groups that's being persecuted in China. And then because after they build this Confucius Institute in all these major institutions, they will, now all these American colleges get hooked. They're hooked to Chinese regime because they will say, they will try to manipulate the economic freedom of these colleges, because if you do certain things, I remember there's one, I think it's 2009 or 2010. I think it's one of the colleges. I think it's Carolina. I'm not sure. I think it's South Carolina University. They try to invite the Dalai Lama to go to their college to have a speech. But then because the Confucius Institute protests, they basically say, well, if you invite Dalai Lama, we're going to stop giving you the money. So then they cancel the Dalai Lama's speech. Wow. So they are here. They trying to manipulate the American society in many ways, and to do something that's really against the founding principles of this country.
Wait a second. I didn't make this connection, and we have conservative speakers like Ben Shapiro and Ann Coulter. You know, the few times that they're invited to American college and universities to speak, there's protests and there's yelling and screaming, and they don't let them talk and everything. And more recently, they've actually been disinvited, and the reason being that it would almost cause a riot, and it would be too expensive to have extra police. You know.
Well, are you talking about the similar events that's similar to the Berkeley?
Yes, I am talking about that.
So
now, are you telling me? I didn't make the connection. Are you telling me that China is behind that?
I don't think
in any way. I mean, it could be.
Well, I don't know. I don't know that part.
Wow.
But however, one thing I know is Antifa. It was an organization when it was first reestablished.
Sure.
World War II. It was a branch of a communist party from Soviet Union.
It's all starting to, you know.
But I don't know if it connects to the China. So it's a different. It's a little different.
I wouldn't put anything past them. I mean, this is enlightening to me, and I don't want to get all paranoid over nothing. But it sounds like there could be a lot of truth to this.
Now,
that China might be behind.
Well,
I always thought it had everything to do with. Excuse, I don't even mean. I'm sort of. I got to get this out, or else I'll forget. I always thought that the reason that it's very, very difficult and infrequent that conservative speakers speak at colleges and universities, the reason behind that is that by design for the last 40 years, 85-90% of the professors, of the teachers at these colleges and universities are left-leaning people, extreme left-leaning people, actually. I always thought that was the reason. Maybe, and I still think it's the reason. We had a program on the Saturday Special with John Ellis, a former professor at UC Santa Cruz, who's made this, sort of an important part of his life to get people aware of the fact that it's been many, many years. I mean, there's no wonder our country is full of, Hillary Clinton type people, and people who love to censor and love to, they're totally in favor of free speech as long as you agree with me, That's what the left is. That's what the Democrats are.
Well,
I'm sorry I made a sweeping statement, but I believe that. If the Democrats who aren't like that are smart, they'll do what that Democratic senator just did, or the Democratic whoever it was who just switched over just in the last day or two. Anyhow.
Well, I think that China, it's like I say, regardless if you're right or you're left in this country, once you cross the border of China, you all become the people on the right side. But I think the people who doesn't want other people to have a free speech, they should go to China and live there for a few years and actually experience themselves how is the feeling without rights of free speech.
Yeah, exactly. And I know people who have publicly said that they're willing to pay their way, a one-way ticket, they don't do it though, and a lot of these celebrities say that if Trump gets elected, I'm leaving, and they're still here, So
well, Americans, it's the standard, I would say, or the country that people can enjoy most of the freedom in the world. So, like Reagan says, if we lost
worth of delay all the way up to Crazy Horse Canyon Road. Taking a look at our weather outside KSCO, it's currently 57, 51 right now in San Jose, and 57 in Monterey. For today, we can expect a high of 60. Overnight temperatures are going to be dropping down to the low 50s with a slight chance of showers increasing to a confirmed 100% chance as we hit our overnight hours, as a storm front moves right along in. KSCO News Talk time, currently 11:06. Time now for hour number 2 of the Saturday special, right here on your favorite radio station.
And Dave Michaels is here.
Hello, MZ. How are you?
Did something terrible happen in the Dave cave?
No,
Or did
exciting
something
things
good
are happening.
Oh, what? for
Exciting.
example?
I'm selling more gear. I love it. I love
good.
gear because it helps support the radio station. I love it. People are going to look good for Christmas, and it helps support the station.
Now,
it's a win-win situation.
Can we have some sort of an arrangement? Because you can't be here all the time.
Right.
Someone came yesterday, they wanted to buy a jacket. And nobody knew what to say.
Well, the jackets...
no one knew what they cost. Or maybe it was a T-shirt. That's what it
okay.
was.
Well,
yeah.
I have a price list out there now, so...
Oh, okay.
They can find everything's organized. So, if whatever, we could take care of that. But the jackets, I hate to say, are for KSCO staff and VIP members only. Nobody else
How
is
do
going
you
to
get to be a VIP member?
You could pay $1,000. I mean, then you...
$1,080.
You're a VIP. Congratulations for $1,000.
Okay.
Congratulations. Anything short than that, though, those are for very important people. If you see somebody wearing a KSCO jacket, they are a member of KSCO. No doubt.
Cool.
They're not for sale. Again, except for you pay me $1,000 and all the rules. I'll bend the rules for $1,000. What I want to talk about, though, MZ, is Hemp FX. Somebody came in to talk about Hemp FX. They wanted to know if we had any. We don't have any in the Dave Cave, but I can order some for you. Now, he brought up a good point that we don't talk about much, and that is that Hemp FX is the longevity version of CBD oils and creams and all this stuff, right? But these are quality controlled. Okay, if you go down to some drug den, you go down to some place where there's a bunch of stoners hanging out, MC, you don't know what's in there. You have no idea what's in there. There could be rat poison in there. There could be all kinds of things in there. Recently the FDA has been cracking down on vape pens, right? And it's not the tobacco pens they're cracking down on. It's the CBD oils that they're cracking down on. You don't know what's in there. When you go to Longevity, you go to the Dave Cave, call me up. We know what's in there. They're quality controlled. That's good stuff. So don't go out there to some drug den. Like I said, don't go to some dispensary. Go down to the Dave Cave or go to your phone. Call 831-218-5726. That's 831-218-KSCO. We will have it delivered to your house.
Won't
How's
that be
sound?
fun?
Yeah, or you can show up at the Dave Cave. I'll be out there. We have almost everything. We don't have any Hemp FX, but show up and we can order it for you and have it delivered to your place. Okay?
How cool. And you'll be there till 2.
I'll be there till 2. And again, T-shirts $20, hats and beanies $25, sweatshirts $40.
And don't forget Kay's books. You got some of them too, right?
Yes, of course, Kay's books. Yes. Yeah, so I'll be out there till 2 for sure. And MZ, I got a lot of work, so I might even be out there for even longer.
If you buy enough products or KSCO gear, we can fix you up with a Kay's book or 2, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Cool.
Yeah.
And you can buy a case. They make the greatest gifts you can imagine.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
They already come in a box too, so you can just gift wrap it and everything.
Unbelievably,
Okay. All right.
unbelievable value, unbelievable convenience to finish up your gift giving. And you can impart some more wisdom to this world. Okay, I'm going to cough my fool head off, but while I'm doing that, we're going to play the Hour 2 jingle.
Oh, hello, darling. I hate to hang up on you, but I'm sorry, baby, but I have to go. It's time for that wonderful record show. I'd love to visit, but you'll have to call back. KSCO has the inside track.
I could be wrong, but I think that's the first time in Saturday Special history that we had no callers during hour number 1. I could be wrong. Right now.
I'm sorry, baby, but I really gotta go to KSCO Radio. Bye.
Now, we do have a caller now, except it's not really a caller.
We did have a caller earlier, but they didn't want to go on air. So
No, it
does
doesn't count. No, it doesn't count. Right.
Fair
it
enough.
doesn't count. And if they would have wanted to go on the air, we wouldn't have put them on the air because I didn't invite the callers, and it was riveting with Nan. Anyhow, I mean, there's no point in upsetting an apple cart when we're on a roll here. We love callers. Don't take this as an insult. Don't take it the wrong way. We love you if you're a caller, as long as you're not a slow-talking, boring caller.
And as long as you're complimenting, too.
And no, we do not accept complaints here at KSCO of any only compliments, right, about the programming and about me, especially about me, right? So we do have not a caller, but a call. I think this is the third time we've done what we should have been doing for the last 10 years or 8 years, or however long Jaunty has been with us. Jaunty. Hi, Jaunty. Hi, Jaunty. Jaunty, for those of you who don't know, Jaunty is the director of digital media here at KSCO and for the ZBS radio network. And Jaunty is here. We're doing a top of the hour, 5 or 6 minute segment, top of the hour, second hour of the Saturday special, during which we are going to do our best to do what we should have been doing for the last 20 years. I mean, that 20 years ago, I didn't even know Jaunty, but we still should have been doing this. And what I'm talking about is bringing our audience into the 21st century. There is quite a digital component to your favorite radio station, but we never talk about it.
What about the social media component? Because we don't address that enough.
That's digital. That's digital. I put it all into digital. Right, Jaunty?
Sure. Yeah. Should I? You remember my blurb that I read last time for the Saturday special?
No, read it again. Do you have it
forgot
memorized?
No, I don't
You know
have it
me,
memorized.
my brains. I'm 68 years old, and my brains are turning to mush every day, more so. So I
I did have the. I did have the thought, MZ, that if we were to actually record the blurb, then it could be. I wouldn't have to read it off, and it could be played other places.
Yeah, is it that long?
No. Let me read it again.
Okay, read it
apparently
again.
you don't
Yeah, and I
recall
love it's
it.
a great
You liked
idea.
it last-
We come up with great ideas here on the Saturday special. Yeah.
If you're a fan of the Saturday Special, why not be a super fan? Visit SaturdaySpecial.com and discover all the ways you can listen or participate. Subscribe to the Saturday Special YouTube channel for weekly shows and promos. Listen to the podcast on iTunes or Google Play, and subscribe to the newsletter for the inside scoop. That's SaturdaySpecial.com. Kind of hard to forget. There really isn't another show like it. But I'll say it one more time. Visit SaturdaySpecial.com.
See, now I'm really worried about my brains because I love that, and you say I loved it before, and I forgot it.
Yeah.
So thank God we have you calling in every day to cover my advancing, dementia. So, okay, Jaunty, what else is happening? Do you have Nishit working on our app?
Yeah, I proofed the kind of.
You don't have to
early
bleep
version.
that, Josh. You don't have to press the dump button. It's okay to say Nishit. Nishit. Because that's the name of our app designer, our app programmer in China. That is his name. So
I'm still air punching the
He's not
dump
in
button.
China.
You're still
but I think
dumping
you
it?
should-
I'm dumping it. I'm dumping
You
it.
should say his name.
Oh,
Very
sorry.
sweet guy.
He is a sweet
Say it
guy.
with love.
And it would be
Really nice guy.
disrespectful to not say his true name, which is Nishit. It just is.
Yeah, say it with love though. Say it like try saying the shit. How about that?
Nishit?
Oh, there you go. Oh, it sounded so good. It sounded sweet. It sounded like a lullaby.
We've got him working on some upgrades to the app, right?
Yeah, the app will look a little bit nicer, and a bunch of the things that broke over the years with all of the updates to whatever Android and iOS are going to be fixed. I proofed a version of it this week. There were a couple bugs. A couple things are working better. They've got a little bit more work to do to get it right. So it's not going live yet. I'm hoping to hear from. I don't think they celebrate Christmas in Gujarat province in India. So because they're Hindu. I think they'll be working next week. So I'll be checking in, and hopefully we'll get it sorted here. I'm hoping we get it by the new year. That seems about realistic at this point.
Okay. So you think more and more people are listening to us via the app because that's what we want to do, and we should have been promoting it every 2 minutes. Like the call letters should be every 2 minutes. Ever since we got the app, which is 4 years ago or something like that. I mean, but
Yeah,
better
4 or
late,
5 years.
better late than never, right, Jaunty? right, Josh?
Sure.
Right.
Well, there's a couple thousand people that use the app to listen to
That's not
KSCO,
enough.
so-
We want a couple 100,000 or a couple million. That's not enough.
You should ask him about his
Right.
social
Well,
media
you and I
presence.
often have a very similar discussion where you're very excited about something, and I say, well, if we're really going to do something, then we need to put all of the bricks together and make a coherent plan and have our resources match the expectations, and et cetera, et cetera. And we can do it for any one thing, but there's always the scenario where if you try to do too many things, then you can't do them all.
Okay, will you get? I'm gonna push the button because Josh has been chiming in, trying to get us to talk about social media, which I think is digital. I mean, it's a broad term for everything. I'm gonna press the button. We can't hear you, but you'll be able to hear Josh now. Go ahead, Josh.
Hey, John T. Can you hear me?
Just
Yep.
he can hear you.
Okay. All right. We'll assume that. Well, basically, my question is, what are we doing for a social media forefront? Because of the fact that it doesn't seem unified. We don't have like we don't have a set of pages. Like we have all these different ones for different shows and all that, but we don't have like a main KSCO page for these websites. And I feel that'd be a great way to plug our app.
Okay, you're on, Johnny.
Okay, I don't really know what he just asked me, to be honest. Josh, forgive me, but I feel like you took like 3 different questions and pasted them into a sentence. So we have an incoherent social media presence. The reason for that is we don't have somebody who does social media. We don't have the resources to have a uniform social media presence. So what we have is a situation where various different shows, all the shows, are invited to participate in creating KSCO's social media presence. They could cross-post, if they're posting for their own
all they
show,
need to do is do show
post on-
notes. And after the first of the year, if they don't do show notes, they're not going to be in the podcasts. We're going to drop them from the archives. Because what's the point of having archives if it always says no description, no description, no description? If the people don't care enough for their own shows to write their own show notes so it can be searchable,
Got to unify.
what are we doing? What are we doing all this for? Anyhow, thank you for bringing that up, Josh. Maybe you and Jonty can get your heads together on that. That'd be great. So, Jonty,
please get in touch with me.
Yeah,
if there's anything you want to do, I'll
JC
help
at
you do it.
JC at KSCO for anybody who wants to contact Jonty, okay? And that, JC at KSCO.com is Jonty's email address. And he definitely answers all emails within 14 to 21 days. I'm only kidding. Minutes, I think. Okay.
Often, yeah.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
neurotically check my email. That's true.
Yeah, thank you, and say hi to this shit for me. By the way, did we do the call the ID that we missed at the top of the hour?
I sure did.
Can I do it again? Just because I want to feel like
As
I
much
did
as
it
you
too.
want.
KSCO Santa Cruz, Salinas, Monterey, San Jose, and Silicon Valley.
Can't forget Comey.
I get amused by all the people who call it Silicon Valley. It's not a rubber valley. It's a silicon, like the silicon chips,
True that.
And in all of the health emails that we get, to health at criticalhealthnews.com, the people talk about my prostrate. So many illiterate people out there who don't know that a prostrate is not part of a man's anatomy.
They got to be careful, otherwise the radio will shut off.
Yeah, okay. All righty. Back to a serious discussion now. Nan Su from Epoch Times is with us. We have... Wait a minute. Jonty, you're still there.
Yeah, I am.
Was I rude to you now by thinking that we're finished?
I'm a big fan of the Epoch Times, or Epoch Times. Which is it, MZ? Epoch?
Epoch, actually, inside our own organization, there are people calling in different ways. Some people call it Epoch Times. So we call it Epoch Times.
So what?
Epoch evokes a more kind of universal perspective. I'm more a fan of that, but I'm a big fan of your your outlet. It's some of the best reporting out there, really.
Yeah, what we try to do is we report the news. We practice what's so-called the traditional journalism, how news were reported decades ago. And
I was just saying there's no such thing as journalism. I'm wrong. There is. It's the Epoch Times.
That's it. That's what we stand for. We give people facts, and we don't want to lead the society. We give them the facts. They will make their own decisions about the facts.
Journalism is not dead.com.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, great. Jonty, thank you so much. See you next week. Hopefully, we'll go on a lovely walk between now and then.
Sounds great.
All right,
Take care.
thanks. Appreciate it. There goes Jonty. Not just a Jonty, our Jonty. Okay. Falun Gong. We did a program about forced organ harvesting, and it was horrific. It's a lot of people have known about that for a long time, and I just found out about it a couple of months ago. I mean, I must live a very, very sheltered life. But as I was telling you, that probably more than anything made me take another look at how impressed I was with China. When I should have continued to have been insulted that they rejected me originally for my visa, and then when they finally, succumbed to pressure, they only gave me a little nothing visa for one entry. That should have insulted the hell out of me, and it should have made me think they're pricks, and bad people.
Well, that's what
but
Chinese population.
The forced organ don't put me over the top.
Okay, sorry.
Forced organ donors against their will, like the Monty Python's Meaning of Life. That segment in that. Can we have your liver then? Well, I can't. I'm using it. I'm using it. Anyhow, so are you part of that Falun Gong?
Well, I actually practice Falun Gong myself.
Explain what it is.
It's a meditation exercise. Now the difference between Falun Gong and other meditation exercises, Falun Gong come with a value system that's truthfulness, compassion, and tolerance. So you pay respect to all these three values in your daily life. So therefore, when you sit in and sit down, there's five sets of exercises. Four of them standing. One, it's a sitting exercise.
Now, who would be against any of those values, except maybe the sitting Democrats who just impeached Trump?
I think that the Chinese government it's a regime that doesn't tolerate any value systems other than themselves. The Chinese regime, ever since they took over control of China, they basically suppress all the traditional philosophies and all the religions that are there in China. And as the result, in China today, you only a very simple two-layer of the social setup. Government and people. There's nothing above government. So government is the one that decides the standard, what's right, what's wrong, what's good, and what's bad. So in order to keep that way, they suppress all other religions or philosophies, wherever. You just cannot have any value system yourself. If you compare with Falun Gong and Tai Chi, ever heard of Tai Chi? It's a soft, slow movement martial arts. Now, Tai Chi was originally from Taoism. But however, you see millions, if not billions of people practicing Tai Chi in China, they're not persecuted. And the reason for that is because when Tai Chi was introduced to the public, they cut their ties with Taoist philosophy. So everybody learn it just as a slow motion exercise. Playing Tai Chi is no different than going to gyms to walk on the walking machine. So that's why they're not persecuted. But however, Falun Gong, they have that three principles of the value system. That's how they got persecuted.
Wow. So how widespread is it? And it must be practiced in secret by a lot of people, right?
Well, before 1999, when the Chinese communist regime started persecuting Falun Gong, their own statistic shows close to 100 million people practicing that meditation in China.
And those people have been targeted for forced organ harvesting.
Yes, that's at least that's what the statistics show. China, for give you an example, from 1991 to 1998, the 8 years, China had a total 74 cases of liver transplant. From 1999 to 2006, China have a 14,000, more than 14,000. I believe it was 14,085 case of liver transplant. So you compare with, before 1999 and after 1999, that 6 years before and after, it's huge difference. I used to remember there was a body war exhibition here, very popular in San Francisco Bay Area. It used to be in San Francisco and also in Tech Museum in San Jose. It's called Body War. They show you the human body plastination. It was a German guy called Huygens. Huygens, when he started his human body plastination factory in China?
No, I didn't even know about it. But
it was August 1999, exactly just 1 month after Chinese government started persecution of Falun Gong. And people have been questioning where he got all these bodies. So his factory was built in northern area of China, in the area very close to several labor camps that detain a lot of Falun Gong practitioners.
And is it getting worse?
Well, the forced organ harvesting was the first. Actually, the investigation actually started by a Japanese reporter. He went to China. I think it's 2002 or 2003, and he overheard this private conversation in some of the exclusive nightclub, like high-ranking nightclubs, and then the small circle discussion about all this organ harvesting, and he started his own investigation. But what happened is after he finished his investigation, nobody wanted to publish his report. That was 2004. So finally, he gave the report to a group of Canadians. There's two investigators leading the investigation. One is David Matas. He's an international human rights lawyer. Another one is David Kilgore. He was former secretary of Canadian State Department in the Asian Pacific area. So they led the investigation, and they came up with it's called the Bloody Harvest. It's available in many languages. You just search Google, you'll find it. So that was the first published report summarize things happening between 1999 and 2006. So Chinese government has been promising people, if you go to China, they will give you the organ transplant, livers, kidneys, hearts, lungs, 1 or 2 weeks of time. And that's how Israel was the first country who passed the legislation, actually say, if you go to China to receive organ transplant, they're not going to provide, their medical system, the insurance is not going to cover up, it's not going to cover any of the following service. What happened is the Israel doctors find out their patients go to China with a promising date. I mean, think about it. They promise the date they're going to give you heart transplant.
For enough
money.
For enough money, yeah.
For enough money, yes. Well, how can you promise people this day you're going to get this patient a heart.
Unless you have a guaranteed source, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
So that's actually what happened. What was a surprise to the Israeli daughter was their patients went to China on the day they promised that they received organ transplant. They received hearts.
Did they?
Yeah, they did. So that's how they start thinking, oh, there's something seriously wrong. I mean, how can you promise people, right? And that's what happened. There's in I think it's 2017, Congress actually passed Resolution 343 and condemned the practice of a forced organ transplant from the prisoners of conscience in China. It's still going on. And also, if you are from Asia, it's a public secret because in Taiwan, in South Korea, and Japan, these things are so popular. They actually have a special travel agent to arrange the organ transplant tour. So they organize all these patients. They gave their vital index of their body, about their body, the numbers to make all these arrangements. So like maybe 10 or 15 guys with their families, they all travel together to China. Maybe a month later, they all come back after they received organ transplant. So it's a really bad situation over there. It has been happening since 2000.
Unbelievable. We're talking with Nan Su, who's a reporter for the Epoch Times. And we're talking all things China and all things Hong Kong and all things the world moving away from communism. There might be some people like George Soros, in this country who are unhappy about that, but I think largely people like that. I mean, what do you think?
Well, I think if Chinese people inside China actually had a kind of a freedom, like people in Hong Kong, they will all go protest. They will all go to ask whatever the people in Hong Kong ask.
So, how much blood do you think is going to be shed? Sort of a tough question, but well, do you see another Tiananmen Square type thing, or? Yeah.
Well, so far, I think Trump administration has handling the situation pretty well. I think Chinese government is afraid to lose the status of Hong Kong as a international financial center because, Hong Kong it's ranked the number 3 international financial center only after New York and London. So more than 70% of the financial investments that's from foreign countries going to China are through Hong Kong. Now,
How many percentage?
70%.
Okay.
So basically, if they lose the Hong Kong's international financial center status, that status is not going to go to Shanghai or Shenzhen. They're not going to go to China. They're probably going to either Singapore or Tokyo. The reason is very simple. One of the key element of a financial center is stock market, right? And the stock market, it's very emotional. The investors don't never know enough, right? So China, they build their firewalls. So if you go to China to make an investment, then all the information are going to be censored. So China, because of the information censorship, it's just never going to have any international financial center. So if Hong Kong lost that status, it's going to either go to Singapore
you
or
would think
Tokyo.
that the people are smart enough to realize that and would back off.
You mean the Chinese regime?
Yeah.
I don't think so. They
They're
are
just not that smart, really.
Well, it's the regime. The only thing they care is about their control of the society.
Sort of like the Democrats here in the United States, huh? Sort of. I draw that parallel. I don't mean to be a, but to me it's so plain and simple, and the
Chinese
the
government
analogy is so perfect.
About Chinese government, it's probably, I'm not sure, say 10 times, maybe 100 times a bigger government than wherever that we complain our government here. There's no match. I call it
Thank God. That's all I can say.
The strongest dictating regime in the entire history of mankind. It's the regime in China today. It's the biggest dictating regime that ever in the entire history of mankind. So that's how dangerous it is. A lot of Americans don't realize that.
Yeah, well, so what are your plans, and what is the Epoch Times plans to get more people to realize that?
Well, I think education is very important. And I think people need to realize that to buy things made in America, it's very important. We spend a few more dollars, we support our own industry. And for example, steel. This country stopped making steel long time ago, for decades, right? But
30 years, I think, at least.
But steel industry, it's known for high pay jobs. The average salary for the people working in the steel industry, it's like more than 80,000 a year. And now, in the last couple of years, because the tariffs on China, there's many industries actually reopened their shops, like in the steel manufacturing, which is very important, because if we lose all the manufacturing jobs, and then we are going to also lose all the research that come with that, and that's very important. I think that one thing the tariffs it's going to do is, if it's not only going to bring the jobs back to the United States, also it's going to force some of the American business with supply chains to move out of China and relocate it to the Asian countries like Thailand, like Taiwan, like India, Indonesia, Philippines, and this country will become the competitors of China. So eventually, by competition, it recreate the competition mechanism and recreate the free market. So one day China will come to the negotiation table to say, hey, we are going to offer to the United States at least as much as all these other countries offer to the United States. So the tariffs, it's very, very important to be kept there.
I see. Okay. We have a caller, not on the line now. We haven't opened the phone lines, but we can if you'd like. I mean, if anybody wants to call in, I'll open it for the rest of the show. We may or may not get calls. It doesn't matter one way or another here. But Andres, who is a frequent caller, sends an email. Current guest. He just mentioned Tai Chi being banned.
No, Tai Chi is not being banned. No.
I didn't hear that either. Has heard of a similar state law in Virginia. Here's a link. It would ban all martial laws under vague circumstances. It sounds like China. And it's a link to naturalnews.com. Anyhow, maybe he'll call in and explain that, because it sounds like he got the misunderstood something that you said, because I didn't.
Yeah, we were talking about the situation in China. Tai Chi was never banned in China,
right,
because
Tai Chi is tolerated, whereas Falun Gong is not. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so we're talking with Nan Su from Epoch Times, and we're talking all things China and big changes in the world. This last week, I had a reunion with a couple of the people that we hung out together after the China trip in Hong Kong in November of 2018, and we've remained together on a WeChat group, right? Just sort of catching up, and happy Thanksgiving, happy holidays. We should have a reunion. Yeah, we did, and it was fantastic. So that was just this last, and I wouldn't be surprised if one or more of those people are listening today. So, but in any case, 479-1080 if you want to give us a call and participate on the program. Here, well, let's just take who is this caller? Yeah, you're on KSCO.
MC.
Yeah, who's this?
Yeah, MC. It's Rory.
Hi,
Thanks
Rory.
for
How you
taking my
doing?
call. Good. Really good interview, by the way. What's the status of the Uyghurs now? Were they being persecuted because they started going on like jihadi attacks against the government, or are they just not being out of good graces with the communists? Why the Uyghurs? I hear there's 2 million of them in prison or in camps. Maybe you could comment on that, Nan.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for the question. Uyghurs, they are persecuted. It's very simple reason: religious freedom. They don't have religious freedom in China. The same way the underground church of Christianity being persecuted, Tibetan being persecuted for the same reason, Falun Gong practitioners being persecuted for the same reason, because the Chinese regime doesn't want the society to believe anything other than the communist regime. So they can't tolerate any other value systems. That's the most sensitive spot of the government. Now, except for Uyghurs, they found the one excuse. They will say, "Oh, they're Muslims, they're terrorists." So they say, "Well, if you don't allow them to persecute the Uyghurs, then they say you are using the double standard because you guys against the terrorists. Why not allow the Chinese government to allow terrorists?" That's entirely a lie. Uyghurs in China, think about what they have. They under the Chinese communist regime's tight control. There are 15 million total population of Uyghurs, but they really don't not allowed to practice their religion. That's the key that basically drive some of the Uyghurs. They want to either escape or they want to be independent. The same way the people in Hong Kong nowadays say they want independence, and same way you drive people away. You see the people in Taiwan, they say, oh, we need to protect our sovereignty. It's really the kind of the regime control people's freedom really driving the protest and driving people away, and then they will turn around to accuse that you being a terrorist. That's the kind of a mentality of China.
Yeah. So there were no outright attacks and jihadist attack type activities. It's just
not jihad. They maybe have under that kind of a control. You're going to see some conflict. Right? You take people's freedom away. It's a self-defense. I would say it's a self-defense.
Yeah, but before this big latest persecution, it was pretty quiet up there. I mean, it's in the Northwest, right? The region?
In the north.
North.
And I think there's...
they're ethnically Chinese, right? Ethnically Chinese?
They are different. A lot of them are different ethnic group. They call Uyghurs. Uyghurs actually is the name of the ethnic group. And also a lot of them they have a different phase than traditional the Han. Han basically they believe Taoist philosophy and Buddhist philosophy and Confucianism. While Uyghurs they're more like the Muslim group in China.
You're right. Interesting. Last question, and I'll take it off the air. You spoke about it a little earlier. What is the sense now with the Trump administration exerting more influence? What's the continued influence of the Chinese government, not just in the universities, but in the motion picture industry? And I'll take my answer off the air. And thank you for the Epoch Times.
Epoch Times.
Oh,
thank
I know
you.
Epoch. It's a great read, and I've only noticed it in the last couple of years. So keep up the good work for freedom and liberty. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, Chinese government has been putting the same kind of censorship as like American people saw when they censored NBA, right? And they put the same censorship to Hollywood movies. Some of the movies, I'm not sure if you realize lately a lot of Western movies, they will always build one Chinese character or Asian characters there. Even the Harry Potter does that, right? So it's really for the huge market they're going after. In one of them is China. You have like 1 billion people over there. But for the same reason, they are going after the market. They are also a lot of times self-censored. Sometimes some of the movie, we heard this horrible story. Some of the movies, just because they shot the scene that's not really showing the great picture of like a big city like Shanghai, then they will censor it. They'll censor it. So, let alone if you criticize them, of course they're not going to have your movie show in the theater of China. Yeah. So basically, you're not getting the market. So that's the reason they're censored.
Wow, epic struggle. Take care, gentlemen. Okay. Merry Christmas.
Great, yeah. To you too. Let's see. Gee, I don't know who's on line one, but you're on the air. Who is it?
It's me?
Yeah, you.
Hi, I'm good.
Hi, who is it?
Billy Sunshine.
I can't understand you.
It's Billy Sunshine.
Oh, hi. Hi. Okay, yeah. So you're on, Bill. What? I don't know why were you calling just to listen or something? For some reason, there's no name there.
No. I do have a question.
Okay, go ahead.
Clearly, China's just horrible, and Xi is a horrible guy, and all of that. But what's going on with the fact that there's all this like fake news, basically, from Epoch Times, where they've created human beings that don't exist to be on Facebook and places like that. That's a story that just broke from the New York Times in the past couple of days.
And you heard about that?
Yeah, Facebook banned our advertisement because of an NBC attack. NBC attack us. They say we spend a lot of money to advertise a Trump campaign, which was not true.
You are pro-Trump. It's a total pro-Trump.
Billy, are you on some sort of a weird phone? Because you're very muffled. You're usually a lot clearer than this.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
Anyhow, he's asking you, as a publication, you are Trump supporter, yes?
We are the independent media. We are factual-based media. We give people facts where we consider our media not politicians. And it was, I think that NBC attacked us. They say we spend money to advertise Trump campaign, which was not true because we are the ones. Let's go back to give you a little history. Prior to
hang on. Don't give me history. The question is about the fake profiles, the fake people that you've invented that Facebook has taken off. That's the question. Why are you creating disinformation?
We don't. Ask Facebook. If there's any ask them to give any give an example of any report from Epoch Times that's not factual. We don't. I 100% believe and confident that all our reports are factual. Even the NBC, when they create a little piece of attack,
This is about the New York Times.
news attacking us, in their in their thousands of words of article, they couldn't give any example that our reports are not factual.
I'm talking about reports from the New York Times, not NBC.
Bill, we're going to move on. Thank you.
It was
Thank you
because
for
the NBC attack, then Facebook put our advertisement off their page.
Thank you.
Okay. Next caller is Pete in Santa Cruz about China. Hey, Pete, you're on.
Hey, excellent guest today. Thank you, Michael. I just wanted to ask your guest. So I've been reading and learning a little bit about the surveillance technology now that China uses on their citizens. And so I'm just wondering, the little I know, do people in China, do the citizens there actually know that this is going on, that they're being surveilled? That they have these 5 points of connection where they know pretty much every move every citizen in China is doing now. And also, like, how that, when you say that maybe communism could be on its way out in China, that kind of seems like they're cementing themselves. Like, how will the Chinese people ever overcome that when they're surveilled like that? Does that make sense?
I think that you make a lot of sense, but it's just they're not up to the point of rising yet. People are aware of that they are under very strict censorship. The government, the eyeglasses, the AI glass they put on the police officers, they wear this AI glass, and then watching you through the AI glasses, which is connected to a handheld computer, they will give you a social score in 3 seconds.
Yeah.
And
social score?
Yeah, that everyone, depending how close you are to the government, how loyal you are to the government, that's the basically standard they rank you, to rate you your social score. If you ever criticize the government, wow, your social score is way down. If I go to China, my social credit score will be negative, basically, because I criticize Chinese regime all the time. So
that's what I was referring to. Don't they have don't they, like, even your driving habits or your manners, aren't all those graded all the time, like how you interact with people and your comments? Is that all part of someone's social score, like how they calculate it?
Well, it's mainly about the government. If you have like a bad driving habit, or if you you're talking not really carefully, your language is not really nice, those probably is a minimum impact to your social credit score. Yeah. But if you criticize government, and just probably one statement, you don't like a certain government policy, boy, that's a big negative to your social credit score.
Wow. That's incredible. And that's so interesting. I could talk to you about that for hours, but I'll let somebody else. Thank you again. I appreciate it.
Right. But now they are not only have this facial recognition, they are developing the programs called posture recognition program, because they say you can change your face, but you can never change the way you walk. So they're developing that to really watch the society.
Wow. Thanks, Pete, for calling 479-1080. Here's Andreas in Capitola.
Hey, thanks for taking my call.
Yeah.
The email that I sent earlier, there were some auto corrections. That's not what I meant to say with martial law. I meant to say martial arts. But anyways, my question is about influence from China. Your guest said that they definitely influence both Hollywood and universities. So it's not too far-fetched to say that they might also be influencing legislation, I would say. We've already seen how, I think it was Dianne Feinstein had a Chinese spy for over 30 years in her office or as a personal assistant. The question is, does he know of any direct project or agenda to do any sort of maybe anti-gun legislation in California being related to or being influenced by China directly?
So far, I'm not aware of that.
Have you heard of the new law in Virginia that is going to ban, or they're talking about banning any martial art that would be tied together with anti-government rhetoric?
I'm not aware of that connection with China, though.
Okay. No, I was just pointing out some similarities.
It sounds like China is what he's saying.
Yeah, it sounds like what China is doing.
Yeah. Sure. All right. Thanks, Andres.
You're welcome.
Always nice to hear from you. Here's Arthur in Prunedale. Arthur, you're on the air on KSCO.
Hi, MZ, one of your best shows. I want to thank you. And I am a subscriber to the Epoch Times, and I'll tell you why. It's the most unbiased, factual newspaper. We don't have it anymore in this country. New York Times, Washington Post, total rags, mouthpieces of the Democrat Party. But his is real journalism, both sides of the story, all the facts. And I want to thank this gentleman. And I have a question for him. Recently, Nancy Pelosi and the Democrat Party have been touting what they feel is a fact, that President Trump acts like he's above the law. Yet they foster programs like open borders, allowing illegals to come in here, sanctuary cities. How does someone with a connection to a communist country interpret or relate to her saying no one's above the law, not even the president, yet they foster and promote many illegal activities like crossing the border illegally and so forth? As an immigrant from a communist country, tell me how you relate to that.
Well, first of all, talking about century state policies, I think that's not fair that the people talking about the century state, that only giving the illegal immigrants from Mexico across the border to our country. It's supposed to be equal. Let the Chinese people to come to the United States, and then there was more than a billion Chinese people want to come. Why don't you let Chinese people have the equal opportunity to come to this country? And do you think that's going to happen? I don't. I think that's nonsense, right? I come to United States and I work and I through my education, I through the immigration process, and I think that's a correct process. I think United States need to protect its border, because no border, no country. That is a very correct statement. And otherwise, if United States become lots its economic power and lots its security, and that's a big loss to the freedom-loving people all around the world.
Okay. Hey, thanks for calling in, Arthur. Hope that helped. Last call, real quick, is going to be, oh, golly, Margaret in Santa Cruz. Geez, we're almost at the end, but quick.
Hong Kong has my prayers, my heart, and it has the prayers and the hearts of America. Is there something that we can do? What can we do?
Ay, God, I wish we'd have caught you sooner. 10 seconds, quick, because it's the end of the show.
Okay, have our legislator and then pass more legislations to support Hong Kong. I think that's the biggest support we can do.
Nan Su, thanks for being with us here on KSCO. We've got to have you back. Okay, that's the end, gang. See you next week. We're going to have the chief of police from Santa Cruz on.
That's all, folks. 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 That's all, folks.